I never imagined that a leap of faith into a stranger's arms would lead to unexpected love. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil inside me. Rain lashed against the window, creating a soothing rhythm, yet my heart pounded loudly, drowning out the gentle sound. My hands trembled, slick with sweat, as I stood on the precipice of change. I could feel the air crackle with tension, the room heavy with unsaid words and broken promises. Just moments before, I had faced the unbearable. My best friend, the one who knew me best, had turned her back when I needed her most. Her betrayal cut deep, leaving a wound throbbing raw in my chest. What had I done to deserve this? I slipped past the crowd in the cafe. The chatter and laughter around me faded into the background. I felt like a mere shadow, invisible as I moved through the bustling throng. Then, there he was. A figure seemed to phase into existence among the chaos. He stood tall, framed by the wild storm behind him. His eyes, stormy and mysterious, locked onto mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. I felt something shift, an electric pulse that skipped through my veins, igniting a spark I'd long thought extinguished. Almost as if my heart recognized him before my mind did. Before I could second-guess myself, I took a step forward. My mind screamed caution, but my heart rebelled. Everything in me craved the connection that was so tantalizingly close. I lunged toward him, a leap of faith with shaky legs. Then suddenly it happened. My world tilted. I was falling into his arms. His hands were warm, pulling me in as raindrops cascaded around us. Time slowed. The chaos of the cafe vanished. I could hear nothing but the rapid thud of my heart, the taste of fear blending with exhilaration. Was this real? A perfect stranger turning my moment of despair into a whirlwind of emotion? People gasped. I heard whispered fragments of disbelief. Who was this girl? What was she doing? I felt their eyes surprised, judgmental, curious. But I didn't care. For once I was alive. In those fleeting seconds, wrapped in the unknown, I could almost see a future flickering on the horizon. But then the moment shattered. He let go, and I stumbled back, consciousness snapping back with the weight of reality. What had I done? The heat in his eyes dulled, confusion washing over his features. Are you okay? Those words hung between us like a thread, fragile and uncertain. My heart sunk. Could I trust this impulsive leap? In that heartbeat, the air shifted again. The stranger was no longer just a momentary lapse of sanity. He held a secret that loomed heavy, casting shadows on the growing spark between us. I stood there, my mind racing with questions. Who was he really? What lay beneath that enigmatic exterior? Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The rain continued to pound against the cafe windows, like nature's way of echoing my internal chaos. I glanced back at him, the weight of the moment still suspended between us. The world outside remained a blur of droplets and shadows, but in that tiny cafe, his presence anchored me, both comforting and terrifying. I'm fine, I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. The uncertainty in my tone betrayed the anger and hurt still brewing from my best friend's abandonment. I didn't mean to leap, he finished for me, a small, understanding smile twitching at the corners of his lips. I felt an unexpected warmth pulsate in my chest. No worries. It was quite the entrance that I forced a smile, but it faltered. The laughter that once bubbled inside me felt like stones, weighing me down. I guess I didn't have a plan. Plans sometimes get in the way, he said. Maybe we just need to embrace the chaos. His words resonated deeply. Could I really embrace chaos after everything that had unfolded? But just as the heaviness of my thoughts threatened to pull me under, he reached out. His hand brushed against mine with a gentle sincerity that sent shivers cascading along my spine. "Can I get you a coffee?" His voice was soft, inviting. It felt like a lifeline being thrown in the stormy seas of my emotions. I nodded. "Sure, I could use one. Thank you." I tried to wipe the moisture from my cheeks, hoping the weight of my unraveling might stay hidden beneath the surface. As he turned to order, I took a moment to inhale deeply and steady myself. A flicker of something new ignited within me, something hopeful yet uncertain. Maybe he could distract me, if only for a moment. Just outside, trees bent under the force of the wind. Here, a different storm brewed wholly within. Once he returned with 2 steaming mugs, we settled at a secluded table, the cacophony of the cafe fading around us. I sipped the warm liquid, letting it melt the chill that clung to my bones. In the middle of sharing small talk, both of us trying to ignore the larger issues looming over us, I could sense a soft caring in his voice. "I am Alex, by the way," he introduced, tucking a lock of dark hair behind his ear, an almost boyish charm evident in his demeanor. "Emma," I replied, unable to shake the unsettling truth that Alex was, in a way, a refuge from my unhappiness with myself. Yet, even as I offered my name, I felt the rock of uncertainty in my stomach. Could I dare to let someone new in when betrayal was fresh? "Emma," he repeated, testing it on his tongue as though my name held significance. I looked into his eyes, at the sweet curiosity flickering there. "What brought you to leap into the storm?" I hesitated. How could I explain the tangled feelings of loss and disappointment festering within me? A broken heart yearning for warmth both in friendship and in love. "I just needed a change," I finally said, opting for honesty without diving deep into the hurt. A look of understanding crossed his features. "Sometimes the hardest storms lead to the most beautiful rainbows," he commented, a glimmer of hope shining through. I studied him, seeking reassurance from that hopeful light shining in his eyes. But there was something else lurking beneath. Something I wasn't quite ready to confront. Not yet. The truth of my loss was still a raw wound, and the thought of fully trusting him left me feeling hollow. As our conversation flowed, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. I found myself leaning closer, caught up in the rare moment of lightness. But the carefree connection we shared could not erase the shadows that lay behind. Just then, the cafe door swung open with a creak, and an icy gust whirled inside like a harbinger of my past. My heart dropped as I recognized her. Maddie? What was she doing here? My thoughts spiraled. Every warmth I felt moments ago turned to ice. I glanced at Alex. He followed my gaze, his brow furrowing in concern. I could see the threads of confusion weaving between us as I grappled with the devastating uncertainty laying before me. Maddie's eyes locked onto mine, and her face, painted with guilt, mirrored the emotional turmoil within. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't tear my gaze from her. The past collided violently with my moment of newfound hope. In that instant, I realized this was not merely about me anymore. It was about a choice that could either lead to forgiveness or plunge me deeper into despair. Would I scream in anger, or would I find it within me to forgive? As the air thickened with the weight of my decision, something shifted. I felt it in my core. Alex was still watching, still waiting. But Maddie's presence, the apology painted across her features, kept me rooted. What would I choose in that moment? As our eyes met, I had to make a decision, and the seconds stretched painfully as an unexpected truth began to surface, one I hadn't been prepared for. The flickering fluorescent lights overhead dulled the warmth of the cafe, transforming the atmosphere into something frigid and foreboding. The weight of Maddie's gaze, laden with remorse, felt palpable and oppressive, driving every ounce of comfort Alex had provided just moments before from my heart. Panic gripped me as I considered how to navigate this precarious moment, impaled by the dagger of my history and the painful betrayal that lay across the table. "Maddie," I finally croaked, a mix of disbelief and hurt choking the word. It came out softer than I'd intended, as if looking back at her vulnerability might somehow soften my own. She stepped forward hesitantly, unshed tears shimmering in her eyes. Emma, I, I didn't think I'd see you here, she stammered, her voice trembling almost as much as my resolve. No, I braced myself against the table, a fragile barrier against the flood of emotions surging around me. Maybe you didn't think about the friendships you were breaking when you decided to disappear. Alex shifted uncomfortably in his seat, the warm smile head worn fading to an uncertain frown. I caught a glimpse of that kind heart he possessed, feeling guilty for letting my past taint the bright moment we had shared just moments before. It's not what you think, Maddie pressed, inching closer. I was trying to protect you, to protect both of us. I just protect what? A friendship built on lies? The sharpness in my voice startled me, but it felt good. A cathartic release of all the emotions that had been festering since Shed walked away. You chose him, Maddie. You chose to betray me. It was then that I noticed Alex, eyes darting between us like a bird caught in a storm. His vulnerability was reflected in the lines of confusion creasing his brow. Yet there was a flicker of something else, hesitation, perhaps, or an unspoken question about how deep my wounds ran. With the pressure mounting, I wished desperately to shield him from this emotional cyclone. I never meant to hurt you, she whispered, her voice breaking. I thought you were moving on. I thought you'd be happy. Happy? The word came out as a bitter laugh, the juxtaposition against my current turmoil stark and painful. How could I be happy when my best friend is dating the person who broke my heart? A silence enveloped us, thick and unyielding. I could feel the heat of anger pooling in my chest, yet beneath it simmered a flicker of empathy. Maddie looked smaller than I remembered, her shoulders slumped in defeat, the vibrant person I once knew now dulled by remorse. Maybe your relationship with him was a way to avoid the pain, Alex interjected softly, attempting to bridge the chasm opening between us. His grip on his coffee mug tightened, and I could see him grappling with the crumbling dynamics of our encounter. But Maddie's gaze had shifted, narrowing as she turned to Alex. And who are you to judge? You don't know anything about her pain or ours for that matter. The tension surged between us, thick as the rain-soaked glass that separated the cafe from the storm raging outside. I could sense everyone's hearts thrumming a nervous rhythmic dance of memories, mistakes, and misunderstanding. Wait, I interjected, the urge to smooth the tension bubbling up within me. We don't need to tear each other apart. There's enough hurt to go around without pointing fingers. Maddie's eyes softened as if a glimmer of remorse had flickered to life in the shadows of regret. I miss you, Emma. I'm sorry, she said, her voice now steady and raw. Can't we try to work through this? I was torn between my anger and an aching desire to reconcile, the threads of friendship fraying but still present. Could time heal something as raw as this? I don't know if I can trust you again, I confessed, surprised by the honesty spilling from my lips. I feel so betrayed, but am willing to try, if you are. Maddie's breath caught in her throat, her expression shifting from apprehension to something lighter, tentative hope taking root where shadow and regret had dominated. She reached for my hand, the warmth of her palm, hovering above mine, urging me to make that leap. Just as I was about to grasp it when everything within me seemed to a wrenching realization hit me with the force of icy rain. I turned, desperation creeping into my heart as I sought Alex's reaction. The moment of connection snapped as our eyes met, not just one soul lost in conflict, but a deep awareness blossoming between USA shared burden. What do you think? I asked, searching his gaze. Can two friends like us really find a way back? Alex took a steady breath, a warmth returning to his voice that shattered the chill between us. Friendship is messy, full of mistakes and misunderstandings. It takes courage to mend what's broken. Though, he said quietly, something profound flickering in his eyes. But then, a hint of uncertainty crossed his face, and he added, but it's possible. Yet just as his words reached me, the cafe door swung open once more, and an icy gust blasted through, bringing an unexpected chill. A figure stepped inside, and my heart stopped. Liam, the very person who had caused this pandemic of hurt between Maddie and me. He stepped into the cafe like a dark shadow slinking into light, an unreadable expression tightening his features. Every ounce of hope I had, every fragile bridge carefully constructed between me and Maddie, splintered as I realized our fragile moment might be slipping further from my hands. As the air thickened with unspoken truths, a painful reminder pinned me to my seat. The choices I had to confront weren't simply about friendship and forgiveness. They were broader, deeper, challenging the fabric of my heart itself. I was torn between pressing forward into the unfamiliar warmth of connection or retreating to the comfort of loneliness. And just as Maddie mouthed something I couldn't capture, the color draining from her face, I knew I had to choose once more. Would I leap again into the unknown, contemplating the end or the beginning? The flicker of the cafe lights seemed to pulse in time with my racing heart as Liam stood there, an unsettling reminder of the past I had desperately tried to escape. His presence cast a long shadow over our tense reunion, suffocating the warmth that had been igniting between Maddie and me mere moments before. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to just his figure, tall and imposing against the backdrop of buzzing conversations and the comforting clinks of coffee cups. There was a silence, weighted and thick, as Liam's gaze trailed from Maddie to me, and back again. I felt a rush of conflicting emotions: betrayal, anger, and something I couldn't quite name, perhaps longing. I had spent so much time trying to move past the hurt he had inflicted, and now it felt as if I were right back at square one. The very foundation I had been trying to rebuild was now crumbling into dust beneath my feet. Emma, he spoke my name like a spell, low and resonant. The sound sent a shiver down my spine. I didn't know you'd be here. My throat tightened, weighing down the words that threatened to spill out. What did he mean by that? Did he think he could just walk back into my life with an easy excuse and make everything okay? I turned to Maddie, searching her face for signs of strength, of support. But her expression was a mix of fear and sorrow, the realization that his presence had drawn us back into the hurtful cycle we had begun to unravel. Liam, I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. What are you doing here? I came to find you, he said, each word heavy with intention. To apologize. He faltered, glancing toward Maddie as if realizing the mess that had unfolded since his departure. I know I hurt you. I didn't mean for it to go like this. His words. A wave of bitterness washed over me. I had spent too long in his shadow, always waiting for him to see my worth, to validate my feelings. And here he was again, pulling me into a space of confusion and heartache. Maddie shifted in her seat, her eyes flitting between us. I could see her gauging the pull of my emotions against allegiance to the past. You left, Liam. You never even tried to fix what you broke, she said softly, but her anguish was flooding back, sharp and raw. He turned his attention to her, his face softening. I know, and I'm sorry to you too, Maddie. I was selfish, but I want to make this right. Make what right, exactly? The words burst from me. Is this another attempt at justifying your choices? Do you honestly think we can go back? That we can just erase the past? With every harsh syllable, the old familiar anger ignited within me, but alongside it grew a flicker of something else: cautious curiosity. What was it about him that still seemed to pull at my heart? Because despite his betrayal, against all odds, there was an undeniable connection that lingered. Look, he said, his voice dropping lower, laced with vulnerability. I'm not asking for forgiveness right now. I need you to know that I never stopped thinking about you, even when I wasn't around. A convenient realization, I said, not hiding the edge in my tone. Yet beneath it simmered a gnawing doubt. Could this mean something different? Could he truly want to make amends? Maddie's gaze swept over me, her eyes pleading for understanding. Emma, we can't let him manipulate us again, she urged softly. Maybe we don't have to, Alex interjected cautiously, his gentle voice cutting through the escalating tension. Sometimes people have to journey back through their mistakes to find clarity. The question is whether we're willing to meet them halfway. That I could feel a storm brewing within me, a clash of emotions between the hurt of yesterday and the possibility of tomorrow. There was a small voice inside me whispering about healing, about the strength found in forgiveness. But could I trust that voice? Would I allow myself to be vulnerable again? As I glanced back at Liam, I caught a flash of something on his face. Was it remorse? Desperation? Or could it be the recognition of the love that might still fester beneath the wounds? Before I could process it all, the door swung open again. A man stepped in, his expression horrified as he scanned the cafe until his eyes landed on me, his face paling. "Emma?" he called, and my heart plummeted. It was my brother, Evan, the one person I had shielded from this entire mess, the one person I had not wanted to burden. "Evan, what are you doing here?" I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. "Maddie called," he replied, rushing across the cafe. "Couldn't just wait." "You sounded upset." I could see his face clouding with concern, and I felt that protectiveness that had anchored our relationship. But I also felt the weight of everything that had just unfolded. The delicate balance I had been trying to navigate was now shifting under the additional pressure of my brother's presence. "Maddie, what's going on?" Evan's eyes flitted between us, trying to make sense of this tangled web of hurt, anger, and confusion. Before anyone could answer, a familiar ringtone blared from my phony, a song belonging to the past that felt painfully significant in this moment. Some part of me, perhaps the hopeful part, wondered if it was a sign to embrace this unexpected chaos and rebuild anew. With a shuddering breath, I picked up the phone, and as I answered, my heart raced. There's always a choice to be made, but right then, the layers of my reality seemed to peel away, exposing raw possibilities and dormant fears. And just as the voice on the other end spoke, something within me shifted, a premonition that I was on the verge of an irrevocable decision, a decision that could alter the course of everything I had ever known. I could feel the heat radiating off Evan as he leaned closer, his brow furrowing in concern. The cafe felt like a revolving door of emotions, each moment more intense than the last. I gripped my phone tightly, the voice on the other end muted by the cacophony of my own racing thoughts. "Emma?" the voice urged, and something about it pulled at me. It wasn't just a call. It was a lifeline. "Are you there?" "Yeah," I managed, taking a deep breath, a hint of strength infiltrating the uncertainty. "I'm here. Is everything okay?" Maddie said there was something wrong. The voice persisted, laced with worry. It was Juliet, my childhood friend, the one person who had always stood by me, even when the storm raged around. I glanced at Maddie, her eyes vast pools of empathy and concern. I understood then that I could either share the weight of my turmoil or shatter under it alone. "Not really. It's complicated." Complicated usually means messy," Juliet interjected gently. "But sometimes that leads to something beautiful. Just remember, you don't have to carry it all yourself." "What's going on?" I hesitated, swallowing the lump that had formed in my throat. "Liam's here. He wants to apologize." On the other side of the line, there was a silence that felt heavy with understanding. "Ah, I see. That's a lot to deal with. Are you safe?" "Yeah, I'm fine," I said, glancing at Liam, who appeared to be caught between hope and anxiety. "But it feels like my whole life just flipped upside down." "You know what I always say," Juliet's voice was steady, a balm to the chaos that surrounded me. "Sometimes we have to go through the fire to find our strength. And sometimes, magic happens in those moments. Give yourself grace." I closed my eyes at her words, a gentle reminder of the resilience I often forgot I possessed. Magic was exactly what I had been missing, hope tucked away behind the hurt. "You'll think about it," I replied, feeling the tether of vulnerability binding me to the moment. "Good. Just remember, you have people who care about you. Lean on us if you need to." Juliet's voice softened, and for a fleeting second, the anxiety knotted in my chest uncoiled just a bit. As I hung up, I felt Evan's hand on my shoulder. "Emma, please talk to us. Don't shut me out like you always do. I want to help." With a shaky exhale, I turned to face him, and the surge of familial loyalty washed over me. "I don't want to burden you with this. It's complicated. And having you here feels like a disruption." "What disruption?" "This is your life, and I'm part of it," he insisted gently, his eyes filled with concern and more than a hint of frustration. "You don't understand," I said, glancing back at Liam, whose expression was reminiscent of a wounded animal. "Bringing you into this mess only complicates things more." But Evan shook his head, determination in his voice. Maybe it's the complicity of it all that we need to face together. Have you ever thought about that? Before I could respond, a flicker of movement caught my attention. I turned back to Liam, who stood there, seemingly small amidst the chaos. There was sincerity in his gaze now, almost vulnerable as he stepped slightly closer, aware of the tension not just between us but within the air itself. "Emma," he began, his voice trembling, "I'm not here to force you into anything. I want to earn your trust back, even if it takes time." "Why now?" I asked, my voice firm but uncertain. "Why after all this time?" "I had to figure out my own demons first," he confessed, a shadow flickering across his face. "I know it doesn't excuse anything, but I've been trying to change, to better myself." "I didn't know how to reach out before. You're still not answering my question," I interrupted, my heart divided as I fought against the yearning that surfaced, battling the shards of my past. Just then, the cafe door swung open again, the sharp bell announcing an unexpected newcomer. My breath caught in my throat when I saw a woman I had never expected to see again. One whose presence held the power to unravel everything I had considered stable. "Emma?" she called, her voice slicing through my certainty like a knife. There was something familiar yet haunting about her. It was Veronica, the one friend I had lost after everything shattered. We hadn't parted on good terms, leaving an unresolved chasm that still echoed painfully between us. The moment halted, the air thickening as if the universe had spun a thread connecting all of us together in that each of us holding pieces of a puzzle with jagged edges that either fit perfectly or would forever remain fragmented. I felt Evan's hand tighten on my shoulder as Liam's expression morphed from surprise to wary. "Veronica?" I dared to ask, my heart racing. "Emma, we need to talk now." Her eyes searched the room, lingering for a heartbeat too long on Liam, and a chill skated down my spine. What more could possibly happen today? As I stood there, the world around me fell quiet, and I knew that my life was on the brink of an inflection point. I could almost hear the whisper of choices swirling around me, demanding attention, daring me to take a step into the unknown. What was she going to reveal? And more importantly, how would it change everything? The edges of the past were about to collide with the present, and deep down, I sensed that I had no choice but to confront it head-on. The cafe seemed to hold its breath as Veronica stepped further into the space, the warmth of the afternoon sun starkly contrasting her icy demeanor. With every step she took toward our table, memories flickered through my mind, moments of laughter, shared secrets, and the inexplicable distance that followed when everything crumbled. "Emma, please," she insisted, a tone of urgency saturating her voice. "This isn't just about us. It's about what happened after." Liam shifted uneasily. "Are you actually here to dig up the past?" he asked, skepticism evident in his tone. Veronica met his gaze. "I didn't choose this moment. I came here for Emma, not you," she replied sharply, her focus unwavering. "What does that even mean?" I shot back, frustration simmering beneath my skin. The potential for confrontation draped itself over the table, thickening the air around us. "I know things I didn't understand until it was too late," she said, her eyes glistening with a vulnerability that I had rarely witnessed from her. "About Liam and how everything shattered. I need you to listen." "Why should I?" I countered, my heart racing with confusion. Months had passed since I'd pushed away the remnants of our friendship, convinced it was the best way to shield myself from the fallout of betrayal. "Because I know you're struggling, Emma," she continued, her voice softening as she reached out toward me. "And I know you need answers. You deserve to understand why everything happened the way it did. It's complicated." The words escaped me in a rush as sadness flooded back, the weight of old wounds pressing in on my chest. "What's so complicated about the truth?" Veronica offered, her relentless pursuit to break down the walls I had carefully crafted. "You deserve to hear my side, just like you deserve to hear Liam's. But first, you have to trust me again." Evan squeezed my shoulder tighter, a protective gesture steeped in brotherly concern. "Emma, just think about this. You don't know what's going to come out next. Could hurt you more." For a second, the past threatened to pull me back in, the memory of how our bond felt strong enough to withstand anything. But I also recalled how easily it had all unraveled. And trust, once fractured, was not easily mended. Fine. Talk. I relented, my voice barely above a whisper. The cafe buzzed around us, the ambient noise fading as I shifted my attention solely to Veronica. But I'm not promising to forgive you for whatever this is. Her expression softened slightly, and for a brief moment, I saw the reflection of the friend I once cherished. After you left, I did a lot of digging. I found out things about Liam that he never told you. Things that might help you make sense of why he distanced himself when everything fell apart. That I caught a glimpse of Liam's face, looked like he was about to say something, but he bit his lip instead. Anxiety radiated from him as if he could sense the tides shifting yet again. Veronica continued, Emma, he wasn't the only one battling inner demons. I was struggling too, and I fell into a trap of believing I could isolate myself from the chaos, but it didn't work. I had to face it, and so does he. We all do. Stop. The word escaped my lips unexpectedly, and I leaned in closer, fists clenched on the table. What are you trying to pull? Is this some kind of twisted redemption arc for you? No, Emma. This isn't about me, she claimed, desperation lacing her tone. It's about everyone, about us. What matters to you? I had to understand my mistakes first before I could even think about apologizing. Us? I repeated incredulously, glancing at Liam and Evan, who both looked just as bewildered as I felt. There's someone else you're not considering, too, Veronica said, suddenly serious. You'll need to confront the truth about everything and everyone, including me. What are you talking about? My heart was racing now. I sensed that whatever she was about to reveal had the potential to bind us even tighter or unravel us completely. Just as the tension sparked like static around our table, she added quietly, Emma, I know you're still wondering why I disappeared after the accident. But more importantly, you need to know why I came back. It's about your mother. The words landed like a heavy stone dropped into still water, rippling through our group. I felt Evan tense beside me, the weight of my family history looming impossibly large. My mother's silence, her retreat into shadows rather than sharing the burdens she carried, had long since fueled my fears. What do you mean? I whispered, the very air escaping from my lungs as I held her gaze, searching for an answer buried deep in her expression. Before she could respond, Liam interrupted, reaching out towards me. Emma, whatever it is, I'm here. Just know that, he said, though his voice faltered with the reveal. I pulled back instinctively, my heart warring between the pull of the past and the uncertainty of the present. Veronica's unexpected return was the last thing I had anticipated. But now I wondered if fate had arranged it all to force me into a reckoning I could no longer avoid. And just like that, a tender flicker of hope mixed with the shadows of dread permeated the air. The truth was closer than ever, and yet, I found myself standing at the precipice wondering if I would leap into the unknown or simply turn away once again. It was time to confront my mother's ghosts. And what Veronica carried may just serve as a catalyst to unearth the answers buried within my own heart. But would the revelations bring healing or simply deepen the cracks? Only time would tell, and I sensed that I was on the verge of discovering something monumental, a truth that had the power to change everything. The cafe continued to buzz around us, but the world felt distant, as if I were encased in a bubble filled with the weight of unsaid words and unresolved pain. I could hardly process Veronica's statement. My mother? How could she possibly know anything about my mother? The flicker of hope igniting within the darkness also flickered with trepidation. Emma, Veronica urged, her eyes earnest. You need to listen to me. I wanted to look away, to deny the truth swirling in her gaze, but I couldn't tear my eyes from her. All the years of silence, the facades, the doubts of our friendship, echoed loudly in my mind. What are you hiding? I whispered, feeling unbearably small. She hesitated, and I sensed her inner turmoil. There were secrets lurking in her heart as well, the same as mine. After the accident, I was lost. I didn't know how to find my way back, to myself or to any of you. The tremor in her voice made it impossibly genuine. But I stumbled upon things in your mother's past, things she never wanted you to know. Evan shifted in his seat, his brow furrowing. What things? Veronica looked at him, and something shifted in the atmosphere. Things that might explain why she's always been distant. The kind of things that could change how you see her, and maybe even how you see yourself. Liam's face was a mask of agitation, and he leaned forward as if he could bridge the gap stretching between us all. Are you saying we've all misjudged her? That she's been carrying something we couldn't possibly understand? Yes, Veronica replied, her voice barely a whisper, weighted with the burden of all the pain she carried. I can't promise that her reasons will make sense, but it's worth finding out. My pulse quickened. And you just found this out after all this time? The accusation was unintentional, rising up from a place of hurt I still hadn't acknowledged. Why now? Because I finally saw the connections, the shadows of your mother's life that cast darkness on yours. And I want to help. She paused, a flicker of remorse crossing her features. What I'm telling you now I should have said back then. But I was afraid. Afraid of losing you both, and afraid of my own inability to face the truth. I closed my eyes for a breath, memories flooding back, happy moments eclipsed by the fear and grief that had cloaked our lives after the accident. I wanted to scream, to rail against the injustices life ladled upon us, both in the shadows of friendship and familial bonds. But as I opened my eyes, a soft rush of warmth flooded me like the morning sun spilling through the trees. If this could bring us closer to understanding, then we owe it to ourselves to dig deeper, I admitted, surprising myself. A small, trembling ember of hope flickered to life between our fractured bonds. What's stopping you? What's holding you back? Evan pressed gently. You deserve to know, Emma. We all do. The challenge in his voice and the tender support from Veronica made it hard to breathe. I tasted the lingering bitterness of self-preservation battling against the yearning for connection. I'm scared, I admitted, trembling slightly beneath the weight of my confession. Veronica reached out for my hand, and in that moment, it felt oddly right to grasp one another through the fissures of our troubles. The gentleness of her squeeze brought a whisper of solidarity. I am too, but perhaps we can face the specters of our past together. We don't have to go through this alone. Before I could respond, a loud crash erupted from the other side of the cafe. Startled, my heart raced as a sudden commotion broke the tension that clung to us. Moments later, a young man stumbled through the door, breathless, his face flushed with panic. Where's Emma? He shouted, scrambling through the crowd, his eyes wide with desperation until they landed on me. Who are you? I asked, stunned, bewilderment coiling around the edges of my mind. I'm Ryan. I need to tell you something. His voice cracked, the urgency sending chill bumps down my spine. It's about your mother. She's in trouble. The air changed, thickening with an electromagnetic tension I couldn't shake. My heart galloped, uncertainty budding into a chaotic storm within. What do you mean? Ryan hesitated, the weight of his revelations hovering just beyond his reach. She's missing. And I think it's linked to everything you've been trying to figure out. A stunned silence enveloped our table, and I could hardly comprehend the implications. Missing? My mother had carved herself into a life of silence, but now silence was morphing into absentia, chilling absence that paralyzed me with dread. With every ounce of resolve, I pushed myself away from the table. Take me to her, please. In that moment, one certainty crystallized within the swirling chaos. This was it. The unraveling had begun, and the past was not done wrestling with my present. Together, we stepped into the unknown, facing the storm ahead, a leap of faith into the unknown echoes of a story not yet fully written. The street outside the cafe was alive with the cacophony of city life, cars honking, distant sirens wailing, and the chatter of pedestrians rushing past as if chasing their own stories. I felt suspended in time as Ryan led the way, his urgency threading through my anxiety, pulling me forward but also scrunching my chest with fear. Where do we start? I asked, partly to ground myself, partly to gather whatever semblance of control I could over this spiraling situation. I have a place. It was the last place she was seen, Ryan replied, glancing over his shoulder, his expression a mix of determination and hesitation. But we need to hurry, time is not on our side. With each hurried step, I felt the weight of the world accumulating on my shoulders. The thought of my mother missing, possibly in danger set my heart racing. Unanswered questions piled up like storm clouds. Why was she missing? What kind of trouble could she be in? Was this all somehow connected to the truths that Veronica had just hinted at? Evan and Veronica fell in line behind me, their presence a soothing balm amid the turmoil. The intersection of past friendships and newfound urgency kept our hearts pounding as we navigated the bustling streets. I rarely spoke, drowning in a storm of emotions while Ryan guided me through the city with a purpose. My heart clenched tightly around the fear of what awaited us, while a budding sense of resilience whispered that I wasn't alone this time. That we arrived at a crumbling apartment complex on the outskirts of town, its facade peeling and neglected. Ryan paused, glancing back at me, his brow furrowed. "This is it," he said, his voice steady despite the uncertainty hanging in the air. I swallowed hard, my throat dry as I surveyed the building, sensing the weight of lost stories embedded in its walls. "Are you sure?" I hesitated. "Is there anything here that could help us?" "Trust me. I saw her here last week. She was talking to someone," Ryan replied, steeling himself as if preparing for a battle. A sense of nervous energy flowed between us, a mixture of desperation and hope inviting me to push through the gates of fear. "All right," I said, barely above a whisper. "Let's find her." As we stepped through the door, the scent of damp concrete and stale air enveloped us, evoking a sense of foreboding. My footfalls echoed in the dimly lit stairwell, each step resonating with unanswered questions. I could feel Evan and Veronica close behind, their shared anxiety weaving into my own. I wasn't alone. Their willingness to face this tangled web of uncertainty wrapped around me like a lifeline, reminding me that strength often blooms in the shadows of vulnerability. We reached the floor where Ryan claimed to have seen my mother, the atmosphere thickening with anticipation and fear. "It was room 205, Ryan murmured, glancing at me. "If she's here, we have to be careful. I don't know what we're walking into." With a mounting sense of dread, I approached the door, my hand hovering over the doorknob. There was an instinctual urge to turn back, to preserve whatever fragments of my reality I had left. But I couldn't. I had to find her. "Is anyone there?" I called out, my voice quavering as it echoed dismally in the empty hallway. Silence answered, thick and oppressive. "Emma," Veronica whispered, her hand resting reassuringly on my shoulder. "If she's here, we'll find her. We won't give up." In that moment, surrounded by shadows, I felt a flicker of hope surge within me, a reminder that even the darkest nights could give rise to dawn. However, just as I prepared to knock, the creaking of floorboards behind us made me whirl around. A figure emerged from the shadows, a woman, tall and cloaked in mystery, with an expression that could shatter glass. My heart seized as recognition sparked within me. You're not supposed to be here," she said, her voice trembling between anger and fear. "Mom?" The word tore itself from my throat, raw and desperate. I was face to face with the woman I had been frantically searching for, the woman who had carved an emptiness in my heart. Her eyes, once a refuge, were suddenly filled with a chaos I couldn't grasp. "Emma, you shouldn't have come. It's not safe." Before I could respond, Ryan stepped protectively in front of me, the tension crackling in the air. "We're here to help you," he declared, a note of determination anchoring his words. But I could see her retreat, fear ebbing away her resolve. "Help?" she echoed, her laughter sharp against the stale air. "This is bigger than you know. You don't understand what's at stake." "Then tell us," I pleaded, feeling my composure unravel. "Mom, we're not scared. We just want to understand." For that brief heartbeat of moment, I thought I saw the wall she had built around her heart flicker, exposing a glimpse of the desperate mother buried beneath layers of pain and secrets. But just as quickly, the veil fell back over her eyes. "You won't be able to help me," she whispered, the certainty of her words sinking into my bones. The confrontation hung in the air, the weight of unresolved truths crystallizing around us. And just when I thought we might finally breach the depths of our pain together, a loud crash echoed from the apartment door, followed by shouts. "Get down!" Ryan yelled, instinctually pushing me behind him. Panic surged through me as I realized that whatever demons lurked in our pasts were now resurrecting themselves in the present, throwing us into a chaos I had never imagined. Would the leap of faith I had taken into this unknown lead not just to unraveling but to devastating consequences? The uncertainty felt insurmountable as the roaring chaos loomed ever closer, threatening to swallow us whole. The hallway trembled under the weight of destabilizing fear, the shouts outside morphing into discordant waves crashing against our fragile resolve. Each second stretched taut, the air filled with an anxiety that clung to my skin. My heart raced louder than before, the urgency of survival kicking in as I struggled to process the reality around me. "Emma!" My mother's voice broke through the tumult, frantic yet resolute. "You need to leave now." But the moment was already spiraling out of control. Ryan's body, a barrier between me and the chaos, stood firm, his eyes darting to the shadowy doorway from which the noise erupted. He took a step back, his expression shifting from protectiveness to a fierce determination. "I'm not leaving you behind," he said, gripping my arm tighter. A sudden crash echoed from the other side of the door, splinters flying as the wooden frame splintered under the force of whoever or whatever sought use. Adrenaline coursed through my veins, propelling me forward. "Mom, please, just tell us what's happening." My voice cracked with desperation, the plea for understanding tearing through the noise. The door burst open, and a figure stumbled through, disheveled and wild-eyed. In an instant, I recognized him and my stomach twisted. It was Josh, my mother's estranged brother, the man I had never met but had heard of through fragmented tales. "Emma," he shouted, his voice thick with urgency. "Your mother is in serious trouble. You have to listen to me." My world shifted again. With Josh's unexpected appearance came a torrent of questions. Why was he here? How did he fit into this chaotic maelstrom? Memory-skewed stories of family feuds and long-extended shadows pulsed in my mind, undermining the momentum we were clinging to. "Josh?" My mouth articulated his name, yet my voice trembled with uncertainty. "What do you mean?" Without breaking his gaze, he stepped further into the room, a wildness coiling around him, framing his desperation. I heard the whispers, saw the signs. "Momsha's involved in something dangerous, something that goes beyond us. There are people looking for her." "No." My voice sliced through the overwhelmed silence. How could she be involved in anything? I felt the threads of my world, fragile yet familiar, unraveling at the seams. "She's my mother." "I know," he said, taking a wary step closer. "But she's made choices, forces are at play that even I don't fully understand." The conflict roiling inside me magnified. "You think that makes it easier for me? For her?" My words shot out, buoyed by hurt and confusion, each syllable sharper than the last. "She's in danger, but I still need her. I need to know why she's been gone. Why she left you." He finished, his voice low and trembling. "Maybe because she thought it was best. But you don't know the weight she carries. We need to get out of here before they find her." "Who?" The outburst ripped from me, a raw edge of pain. "Who are they?" A sudden crash reverberated from the hallway, rattling the very foundation of our world. The cacophony surged around us like a tidal wave, threatening to drown all in its path. Yet in that moment, Josh's eyes, haunted but resolute, met mine, his sincerity igniting something deep within. "Listen to me, Emma. There's still a chance," he implored. "But we have to move fast. Trust me. I'm here to help." Each heartbeat echoed a plea for faith as I deliberated. To believe in Josh felt reckless, yet the faint thread connecting us, however frayed, anchored me to the desperate hope that perhaps, just perhaps, he could guide us through the storm, lead us to the safety of understanding my mother's depths. Before I could respond, Ryan gripped my shoulder and whispered urgently, "If we're going to do this, we need everyone on board. The longer we wait, the more of a target we become." With a heavy heart, I looked between them, me long-lost uncle with an anguished urgency, Ryan steadfastly protective. In that instant, I felt the hum of possibility brushing against the panic. "All right," I said, my voice breaking but resolute. "Let's get her out of here." As we pivoted to strategize an escape, a sudden shadow fell across the doorway, freezing me in place. My breath caught in my throat as I turned back to see another figure emerge. This one undeniably familiar, the cold, determined gaze of Veronica. "What are you doing here?" I breathed, my eyes darting between her and the doorway that could spell doom at any moment. She stepped closer, an imperceptible smile hinting at the corners of her lips, her bravado flickering in the oppressive air. "I came looking for you, but I didn't expect all of this." But I struggled to construct the words. "We need to run. You can't just stand here. Don't you see?" she said, her voice steady amidst the chaos. "I want to help too. Trust me. Together, we can figure this out." Her statement hung a palpable truth that seemed to weave a tentative alliance in the air. A flicker of light amidst the chaos sparked, the sense of togetherness honing into something sharp and promising. "Then we go," Josh announced, urgency coating his voice. "Emma, we can't stay here. He'll lead. Follow me." The storm outside intensified, shattering the illusion of safety as our small group leaned into the unknown together, stepping into a whirlwind of uncertainties. The choice hung in the air: leave behind the fragmented pieces of our lives to plunge into the mystery of my mother's secrets. But as I took a step toward the door, relenting to fate's dark authority, another crash reverberated through the hallway, this time slicing through desperation, apprehension suddenly morphing into terror. A figure, a dark silhouette, waited just beyond, breathing heavily, eyes glinting menacingly as they shifted toward me. In that moment, with everything I had just clung to teetering on the edge, I realized this was only the beginning of nightmares unraveling around truths too daunting to face. The figure stepped forward from the shadows, and my heart dropped as recognition tightened around my throat like a vice. It was Donovan, the man who had been tethered to my mother's secrets in the most obscure ways imaginable. My breath hitched in my chest, trying to make sense of the whirlwind circling me. "Emma," he said, his voice smooth but edged with tension. "What are you doing here?" I felt the air suffocate under the weight of unspoken threats and buried history as Ryan positioned himself protectively in front of me, and behind him, I sensed the collective breath of Evan, Veronica, and Josh, all waiting to see how this began and where it would end. "He's not here to help," Ryan growled, every fiber of him brimming with a protective instinct. "You need to get away from her." The tension thickened, every second drawing out like fragile glass ready to shatter. "I know what she means to you, Ryan, but hear me out," Donovan continued, his eyes flicking between us, assessing the power dynamics at play. "This situation is bigger than all of us, and Emma has to understand the implications." "Understand what?" I spat, frustration bubbling over. "You have no right to involve me in whatever secrets you're hiding. You're the reason my mother is in danger." "Danger?" Donovan's brow arched slightly, sarcasm and exasperation mingling in his tone. "You think this is a game? There are enemies at every corner, and they'll stop at nothing to get what they desire." His words dripped with consequence, each one drawing a line deeper into my gut, filling it with dread and uncertainty. "Emma," my mother interjected, her voice softer now, a plea nestled in the urgency. "You have to trust Donovan. He knows what he's talking about." The room spun as those words settled into my heart. "Trust?" I said incredulously, oscillating between disbelief and a deep-rooted instinct to cling to family. "Trust is all we have left," Donovan replied, breaking the tense silence as the commotion outside continued to swell. I felt everything spiral. My mother wasn't just a victim. She had played a role in a far larger scheme, and I was caught in the ripples of her choices. The gravity of this moment, the potential for revelations that could rewrite the narratives of our lives, hung heavy in the air. "Emma," Josh urged, stepping closer. "You need to choose. You can't trust someone who's lied to you your entire life. Not with everything at stake, especially with your mother's well-being on the line. We have to get out of here." A fire ignited behind my fear. This whole time, I had thought this journey was only about mending fractured bonds. It was about protecting those bonds from fracture altogether. "I need to know the truth," I said, my tone finally resolute. "And I won't leave until I understand why." "Why are you so stubborn?" Donovan shot back, frustration edging his voice. "The truth is dangerous, and you're only exposing yourself to what hides in the dark." You need to get out while you can. Emma's not going anywhere, Ryan countered fiercely. Not until we uncover the truth. A sudden crash echoed through the hallway, louder and more aggressive now. They're coming, Donovan warned, urgency threading through his words. Forget about resentment. Forget about the past. We need to move. I glanced at each of their faces, Ryan's fierce determination, Josh's heartbreaking plea, my mother's guarded worry that tethered my heart to a choice between safety and truths I sought to unravel. Stop, I interjected, forcing a trembling breath as uncertainty turned into clarity. I felt the pressure inside me building, demanding to break free from fear's grip. I know you want to protect me, but I can't just run without knowing more. I'm tired of being in darkness. So if you love me, help me understand. Why Mother stepped forward, surprise transforming her troubled expression into something more vulnerable. Emma, she began, the weight of years translating into that one soft utterance. But before any of us could grasp the words on the tip of her tongue, the moment was shattered as the door bulged under a fierce push from unseen hands. Go! Donovan yelled, but that word shimmered like fleeting hope in a raging storm. The moment stretched and splintered, and out of instinct, I willed my legs to move. But then Ryan was yanking me toward a back exit, whispering reassurances, urging me away from the impending threat. I wanted to resist, to demand answers, but the urgency overpowered me. Let's move. Josh pulled at my other arm, and I felt caught between the instinct to flee and the desperate need for clarity. With one last glance at my mother, those pleading, introspective eyes, I decided the leap of faith wasn't about choosing between family and fear but forging the bonds I longed for amid the struggle. I will find you, I shouted, my voice grounding me. No matter what happened as we bolted from the apartment. Racing through the darkened hallway toward a chaotic escape, chaos erupted behind us. Cries, shouts, everything awash in frenzied movement, but my heart beat in harmony only with the resolve nestled deep within me, and in that split second, I began to feel a shift. Perhaps the magic of fate was leading me beyond fractured moments into something rich-ran understanding, acceptance, and ultimately, the truth that could heal our wounds. Somewhere in the thick of uncertainty, I grasped that every step into the unknown thrummed with the power to change our narratives. Together, we would leap into an unseen tomorrow, courageous enough to embrace the fire and find warmth amid the shadows. And as we burst through the cafe's back door, the storm around us echoed with the promise we had grappled for so long, whispered glimmers of light tinting the horizon. Feel that? I muttered breathlessly to my newfound family, the deep breaths of those beside me intermingling with exhilaration. The storm will never define us. We ran forward, hearts propelled by the truth and the relentless pursuit of finding light.